indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you guys for coming tonight. It's always a pleasure.
Right?
Okay, so do we have a motion to approve the agenda? Motion made by Ron.
I'll second that.
Second by Josh. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Public comment?
Thanks for selecting me, and I'm looking forward to serving our community this way. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Thank you for
Nice to
applying.
see you,
Yeah.
Jean. Thank you.
Okay, consent items. Do we have a motion to approve the consent items?
Do you have a agenda there to look at?
No, I
No.
got
you call
I offered him one.
it. I got it.
So do we have a motion to approve the consent items?
Motion.
Motion made.
Second.
Second by Ron. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Discussion items. Winter weather policies for school board meeting.
This is just our typical, we had our first snow flurries, so we needed to remind that according to the policy, in an event that the district closes school on the date that we have a regularly scheduled meeting, the meeting will be postponed to the following Thursday at the same time, same place.
Unless the meeting date is changed in January for some.
Right, unless the meeting date, it will just be the following week,
On the same date.
yes.
So I have a quick question. We had set our calendar and we had a Wednesday meeting. The Wednesday meeting I missed. And I know we set that in January. We set that last January.
Mhm.
But in your reminder, you said, well, we can't have board meetings on non-school days. So I was questioning that. Because we have school board meetings all summer and there's no school. So
Okay,
so all I'm saying is, I know we set it for Wednesday and we decided that, but is there a rule that we can't have board meetings on non-school days?
I guess during the school year, that's,
Do we have a policy on that?
well, this is
No, some of it
so
is.
this is a policy about inclement weather.
So I didn't think there was anything that said, you can't have board meetings until the polls close, and so we often change
National
those.
holiday.
National holiday.
National holidays, but I'm just clarification, that's all. It was
And
fine
maybe
to
it was-
do it, but
Maybe it was incorrect when we originally
Said it.
approved it, yeah.
Okay.
And so if it stays on Thursdays, for next calendar year, we will have that same issue again. Would you be able to meet during that break?
I think part of the discussion we might have had is if people want to go somewhere.
Well, I don't think we had, I just think
But
it was,
no.
that's MEA, so
Yeah.
let's move that one to Wednesday. It just,
Yeah.
And I think it's fine if we do move it to Wednesday, it works out.
okay,
If
it's
you
just
know
that I move my work schedule to
Oh,
make
okay.
the meeting dates.
Well,
So-
and we can look at it in January if that's the
Okay.
case. Thursday's fine, either night's fine, because none of us really go places during that week. do we?
It doesn't, I'm just sort of saying, I didn't know that there was a rule not to have board
Airing it
meetings.
out.
I'm just airing it out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the only rule we have is that if school is canceled
Yeah,
due
because
to
of
inclement
weather.
weather, we can't
Yes.
expect people to come to board meetings.
Correct. Got it.
We good on that?
Yeah.
So, resolution, I'll discuss that in June. Combined polling places.
Shar Minor from Caledonia sent an email stating that they're suggesting that an MSBA, for those of you reading the Leader, I think this came out in August, that they really want every school district to pass this resolution annually in case we have a situation come up where we need to have a special meeting, because this has to be The resolution has to be established to combine the polling places at least 90 days prior to an election. And so if we had somebody who like stepped off the board and we needed to have the election because we weren't within that election day window as we are now, so we could appoint, then we would have had to, since we didn't have this resolution passed, we would have to have a polling place at all of the individual polling places. And so looking at that, we would have to have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. We would have to pay and man 13 different polling places for a special election. And so they're saying that
Have we had this in the past,
this is brand new legislation.
because we have used one polling place?
We have used one polling place in the past, but new legislation says the school district can't all of a sudden decide to have one polling place. They have to have this resolution to have the one polling place. So that's MSBA is suggesting, and Shar from Caledonia is suggesting that all the boards just ratify, and this is the sample resolution from MSBA, changed with the Houston information, and I figured that the Houston Community Center would probably be the one polling place we would all use. It has to be one of the polling places that's already designated.
What about the fire station?
That works nice.
I mean, it's nicer for handy, it's
a nice access, easy access, and-
Yeah, if
If-
that's
if you'd
changing,
rather-
we should.
Okay, yeah.
I like that one.
I mean,
better
if
personally,
you'd
'cause
need
you
to
have the
talk to the
elevator.
fire chief to make sure that's possible, but that's a
Use Krista's
designated,
arm.
Is that one of the
yes,
designated
Yeah.
polling
Yes.
places?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay,
and it's got room to,
Who is that for?
What,
Houston
the fire-
Township? at
Houston
least.
Township.
yeah, that's where I vote.
Township.
That's
Okay.
where I vote.
That's right.
okay, so
You could handle it.
if you could make.
I think so,
no,
yeah,
so
you'd have it
multiple
set,
townships.
like you
There's-
go to your table.
Right,
So
there
that's
are
what
other, so
they
there
would-
are already other townships
Yeah,
that
there's
vote
townships that
there.
are there, cause I went there, you know, they
Okay.
have your location. on
Yeah,
there.
I'll make that change in this, and then it will come back for a vote
Next
in
time.
next time, and then every November, we'll just have this resolution so that we can, if anything comes up.
Makes sense.
So we have to do it 90 days prior then to that period, so November, beginning of
Well,
Well,
November.
we just
if
set
we-
it annually, then.
If
Yeah.
we set it annually,
Right.
then we don't ever have to
Right, that's what
worry
I'm saying,
about
but that's gonna
having
be
it
early
90.
enough, correct? Okay.
Are
Well,
we
this-
gonna do it in January then, or with all the other stuff?
With what, setting the,
That makes sense.
If we have to do it every year, we have all that stuff we do at the beginning of the year.
would it make sense, would you rather have it on the January?
Well,
Yeah, I
it just
feel like
makes
if
sense,
it's-
kind
yeah.
of.
Cause it's an annual thing, so we not come all at once.
Kinda like a housekeeping thing, like everything else we do in January.
And we'd have to have this in place for the general elections as well as special, wouldn't we? Or not?
No,
Because everybody goes to their own,
No, because the
okay,
general
never mind,
elections,
never
everybody
mind.
goes, no, this
Okay.
is just for a special election.
Mhm.
This is only for a special election.
Yeah, I think we should do it. I like Mimi's idea.
Okay,
Makes
Otherwise, we're gonna forget.
well, we've got
Not that I
a
know.
chart, and so
I
we.
know, but it's-
sense. It's just a good
anytime-
annual housekeeping
That's
thing.
Okay,
Joe
So
Craig,
January.
that's the chief.
Is that
who we'd have to talk to?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's who.
okay,
It shouldn't be a problem, I wouldn't think,
No,
unless
it
it's on,
and so this will come back then, we can just leave it until the 1st of January.
Mhm.
Now you've
Just
all
so we
seen
don't
it?
forget.
yeah,
We can do it next time. and then
so it says at the bottom there, it needs to be set by December 31st.
Oh,
so
yes, it does need to be set
So
by.
we do need to do it this
do it
year,
before,
and
yeah.
then,
Except this year,
Are we not within our 90 days?
we're not within our 90 days
So,
anyway,
January it is.
so,
well, then annual isn't gonna work either.
So,
Because if you have a special election, you have to pass the resolution within 90 days of
no,
this.
no, the
No.
resolution, once the resolution is passed, it's good for a year.
But it has to be passed within 90 days of the election.
Right,
So if
you
you do it
can't,
January,
you
you're
can't
fine.
push it, you
Oh,
can't push it through.
at least 90
Right.
days
Right.
prior to the first election where it will be
Right.
used.
So
Oh,
we're
so-
fine.
So do you
Confusing.
wanna leave this for January, or do you wanna just put it on for the next agenda?
We do it January.
Just do it January.
Okay?
Okay. Moving on. Old business, items for discussion and approval. Caledonia Sports Cooperative Agreement.
Okay, the first one that came through was the one with Spring Grove, that was in your packet. This is very similar to that, except we, Tom and Mimi and I met with the, representatives from Caledonia and Ben Barton, the superintendent, and there were some things that we didn't like about the contract or the agreement they had with Spring Grove, where we felt it was unfair. And, they did agree to change those. We now get to keep the user fee. So that user fee stays with us to defray our costs. Before, they were getting the user fee, and also the other thing is that if it's a co-op sport, so there's just 2 schools involved in the sport, such as wrestling, it'll be $16.70, that flat fee that pays their overhead costs, for just having sports, overhead costs such as having the trainer there, having their AD schedule it, custodial, light heat, those overhead costs. And if the 3 schools are splitting the cost, then I said that dollar amount should also be split in 3. And so that, that would be down to $1,113, and that's, the soccer. Spring Grove is also in soccer. It's funny, I got a thank you email from the Spring Grove soup, because she's now getting the benefit of our negotiations too. So it's a 3-year period. It's just going to be for girls and boys soccer and for wrestling. And there's in your packet, there is a dollar amount for what this would be as far as the cost to the district. In looking at the cost to the district for boys track and girls track, now it's very similar, except the amount for boys and girls track includes $449 for the AD, because that's separating out the AD and all those things, and other costs as far as that aren't in the top one, but that's wrestling, the $7,795 does not include our transportation for those kids, and last year our transportation was $1,700. However, and we did not pay this amount last year because this agreement was not in place. However, Ben did say that the wrestling was going to go down by at least 3,000 or 4,000, because he said they have, for the 20 boys they had out there, they had 19 participants, 7 from Houston. Of their 19 participants, they had 4 coaches. And they said they're not going to have 4 coaches next year, so that price will come down. So it will not be a $7,700 bill for wrestling.
So basically, this cost will vary each year depending on the amount of kids that are participating. So if you look at this is, I think, last year's numbers.
For wrestling.
For wrestling.
And boys and girls soccer,
Right.
that's fall of 17.
So again,
that's
you
this year's.
just keep that in mind. So it'll be, what we'll be doing is what we talked about is monitoring the cost to make sure that it's fair and equitable for everybody to,
Remind me what the
work
minimum is, say when we don't have any participants, there is a minimum, right?
The minimum for soccer would be $1,113, and the minimum for wrestling, if we had no participants, would be $1,670, because we
To keep
said that,
the
Agreement.
agreement, correct.
Okay.
however, our soccer players, a ninth grader was all conference this year, so for boys, I know we're going to have at least one soccer player for another 3 years. And, then there's there were, of the 2 boys, one was a ninth grader and I think one was a 7th grader.
Did you get a chance to compare it to ours, if our sports in-house?
Yes.
Does this seem pretty reasonable then?
The soccer is,
Okay.
very reasonable.
Yeah, we did kind of a cost analysis on what it was, and when we looked it over, it was pretty average to what we were paying already for our in-house sports. Actually, some of them were cheaper there than they are here.
Great.
So we felt, and the only thing that was the main thing, and when Mimi was there, we talked about it, is the user fees. Because we didn't feel that, you know, if you're not gonna take it off the top, then we're not gonna give it to you.
Because they were,
Because that was, you know, extra.
the cost per participant is the actual cost of that sport. And so then if we're paying our share of the cost for that sport, and we're also paying our share of the cost for the overhead, then we have paid our total share. And if you're taking the user fee as well, then you're getting more than our share.
So that was one of the,
And that was kind of a sticking point,
Well,
but,
I appreciate you guys negotiating down to a reasonable, because we want to be able to offer those sports by all means.
Have they reviewed, is this our calculation? I assume it is, cause it has Rushford on there.
the total cost from Caledonia, those are the numbers that I got from Ben. So the total cost, the number of participants are the numbers that I got from Ben. I know the number of Houston participants, it's just 10,083.48 divided by 27 to get the cost per participant. And then the cost per district is multiplying.
Does it have the 1,600 and 1,100
Yep,
added into
the cost to the
10,000?
district has that added in.
Okay, so you added it over there. I just wonder if maybe we should have them second review it just to make sure it's accurate, which is gonna lead to my next question is what are we paying them for soccer? Since we didn't have this in place, are we paying them this amount for soccer or did we already pay them something different?
We have given them nothing for soccer, and I'm not sure if that's what I need to find out. In going ahead with this, it's for wrestling, and I'm not sure with the soccer if we have to pay that cost to the district, then I'm going to make sure that if they've charged the families anything, the families get that money back. Because in the past, they charged any family that wanted to be in soccer $400.
Right, so they charged them the cost per participant
Yeah.
amount.
so right now,
So
we
we,
haven't
as
paid
far
anything.
as we know, the families paid that amount.
If
We
the
don't know.
if the families
Right.
paid it, then we're not paying anything.
Right.
Or,
Well, and if we were to pay, obviously there's money that needs to change hands because they probably didn't pay the Houston user fee. Instead, they paid
Right,
Caledonia's user fee, which was more, so we would need to account for that. But I think we should address that and figure it out and determine, even though we didn't have it in place before soccer, we should just make sure we're all set. I know we wanted to get the agreement in place and we just didn't get it done in time, so.
Be voting on this?
Yeah.
I'll make the motion.
okay, we have a motion, we have a second,
Second.
second by Ron, okay, further discussion?
okay,
Go ahead.
I just need to know, did your motion to approve this pending the soccer? Or,
It seems like that's pretty straightforward. We're not paying anything right now, and you're saying if they're gonna come back and collect it, you're gonna,
I think she might need direction whether to
So
leave the
the
families
motion would be,
pay it
yeah.
or for us to try to,
well, or didn't that come up, or are they gonna be pursuing that for future, or right now that's under the radar? I
It's
mean, right now,
unresolved for the current year, cause soccer's done, right?
Right.
soccer's
Soccer's
done,
done.
but I'm not
But it's
sure,
for the
I'm
3
not,
years.
it's for the 3 years, so going forward, yes, we need to do this, but I don't want I don't want families to have had to have paid $400 and then us to give
Yeah.
Caledonia the 17.
Well, yeah, because it's either gonna go one way or the other. Either we're gonna not pay for the soccer period,
Right.
what they've got is they got. Okay, and we go from this day out 3 years.
Well,
So
what
then we'll have
happened with soccer
400.
last year? What did we pay
We
last year?
paid
Nothing.
nothing, the families each paid $400 apiece to
So
participate.
my assumption would be that that's what's already happened.
Right.
But
But
we
we
also
need to-
were in the process of negotiation, so I don't know if Caledonia's
Where they-
AD said, no,
Okay.
we're in the process
Got
of negotiation.
I would say from this day forward, I mean, this
This
is,
agreement goes forward.
yeah.
But the agreement, the way it's written, is 2017, and so,
Well, let's
It's a
just
good
date it
point.
today,
well,
can't we?
And then
But
by
it's
all means
also-
though, include soccer, by all, yeah, we don't need that burden on the families for future years.
well, and
Well,
it's
for
just,
sure, not in the future, it's just a matter of whether we want to.
Look back.
if they didn't,
rearrange
if
that
they
for this year.
didn't charge them for it this year, are you willing to pay
Yes.
for that for this year?
Yeah.
That,
No.
If they
that's
haven't,
what,
if
Would
they
they-
haven't collected it.
if they
Yeah.
haven't collected it from the family, would you be willing to have this a
Well,
retroactive?
put it this way, in
agreement?
my mind, if we pay it, then it's the back date, the contract to when soccer started. So when our cycle of 3 years
Yeah,
ends,
so
it
you're just saying
ends
you're.
at the beginning of before the next, 3
Good
years from
point.
now, before the soccer team starts.
Would that
So-
mess with wrestling then?
No, it won't.
Just clarify
Never.
this now.
Yeah.
Because we're starting with 17, so wrestling season 17.
Soccer
So
was
go-
17.
I know, that's what I'm saying, so it won't mess with wrestling till
We're not
after
to
the fact.
wrestling yet.
We're
Okay, I
talking
like
3
that.
years.
So the 400 is the user fee.
No,
No,
no.
that's what. they-
400 is the fee to the family, and then they also pay the user fee.
Well,
So we
we-
have to find out about that too.
Right, so we have to find out.
No,
You have to
that's
find out
not
about
right.
that
Right,
too.
that's what
Right,
we need
and
to find out.
it's, if we're saying we've got a cooperative sport, it's not really fair to those kids who were saying, yes, we've got a cooperative sport, but hey, guess what, you have to pay through the nose to be part of it.
No.
Okay.
That,
So your motion is gonna be saying that with the consideration with the soccer, when you look into the cost, if they've paid the money, then we'll go back and make sure that it gets fixed. They won't, they get their money back.
Will
And
Caledonia
it,
be okay with,
The contract, we're just gonna have to backdate it, showing that it starts the beginning of soccer season. So that way, that sport is included in the 3-year process. So we've already got 1 year under our belt for soccer, we're getting to have our first year under wrestling. So we have 2 more years for soccer, and then after this year, we have 2 more years of wrestling.
So
So the
what
400 is
if
basic. The
Devil's
400
advocate.
we would reimburse.
I
They
don't
would
think,
reim-
when, at the meeting, I asked them what the price per person was and they didn't know it. And they didn't get it to us by our meeting the next day. And there was a soccer parent or past parent on their board and he didn't know the amount. So my guess is that they hadn't calculated it
Okay.
and they probably
I know
hadn't, they
last,
definitely hadn't paid the $373 because nobody knew what that number was.
I got
but
it.
last year the parents had to pay it before the start of the
So unless
season,
they just rounded up and said 400,
because that's what
but
the
they
parents had
also
to pay
didn't really
last.
know
last
that
year,
at the meeting.
You'll
we had
find it
either.
out.
You'd think
So
they
once-
maybe would
yeah.
have
The
known that.
Houston parents knew that they had to pay
Maybe
400 plus the
Houston
user
parents,
fees.
yeah, maybe the Houston parents, but
Yeah.
I think, if we, why should soccer be the only one where the parents have to pay that
Right.
huge fee?
yeah,
Yep.
by all means.
And I think we should do it retroactively for them, for the
But it's
fall.
gonna take Caledonia's gonna have to agree then to reimburse the money.
Well, if they're getting money from
gonna
us
get more
to
money
pay
anyway,
for the whole
right.
thing,
Okay,
Then-
but I'm just saying.
Oh, I know, they have to agree to
Is
it.
it right?
Yeah.
They
Well,
have
it's
So
actually,
it-
if it was 400, we're gonna be giving them a little less because it's three.
Right.
It-
Yeah, but
73.
they're also gonna get the,
there is a chance that
The
they would
11,
balk at the
13.
retro dating of it, correct? And then we.
no, I don't think they would balk at it at all, because for the 6 kids, even if they charged $400
Oh,
per
they're still
kid,
making out more than.
they're
Okay.
getting more this way.
mhm,
And the intent was, I think the intent was to get it signed before soccer.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I
We
don't,
wanted
Wow.
to, so I'm sure. they wanted-
Except they wanted the original one that they had with Spring Grove signed,
So
and they
it's fine.
really weren't that willing to change it, except
One more piece piece of,
Yeah,
wasn't it?
we wouldn't sign the way they had it.
Do we have a co-op with La Crescent for hockey, or is that different?
No one wants to, if we ever have students again that want to do a co-op with hockey, then we will ask to.
Entertain this
Yeah.
Mhm.
with La
But
Crescent?
right now, the last person that we had that wanted to do La Crescent hockey was Kilby?
Couple of years ago.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, I don't know, I
Yeah.
mean, how would I know
No,
what
no,
kids
it's
are
been a
going
while.
in what
No,
sports?
no.
Well, I think this allows us to say that we offer those sports, and
Yes,
we don't list hockey as a sport that we offer. That would be the difference.
yep.
And on this one, I don't have gymnastics on there because we haven't had any girls that have expressed any desire to do gymnastics.
And if it does come up, we can just,
If it does
Discuss
come
it.
up, then the way this is written, that we can add a sport. We just can't delete a sport, so that's why I didn't want gymnastics on there.
We don't
Because I
want more
didn't
than what
wanna
we have
pay
going
for
on.
something we're not gonna,
And we also need to have the discussion about if it's just one kid,
right,
you know.
Well, so
It's
if we
very
can't
expensive.
delete the sport and we're paying this minimum fee.
Yep.
Is there something in the agreement that permits us to step out of it if we?
No,
we
Look,
can't
if we-
step out of
if
it.
you
That's why
scroll
it's gotta
for
be
number
For 3
5.
years, you're in,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah,
3
so we
years or
offer
in.
those sports for 3 years. We're
Right.
paying for the rights to say that we offer
Okay,
those sports.
I understand,
Yeah.
just wanted to clarify.
Question came up, good question.
Yeah, and that was one that they wouldn't,
No,
They
they
No,
wanted,
I mean, I get it, I
they wanted
understand.
it for budgeting purposes,
Yeah,
so
I understand.
that's just the way it went.
Maybe added, but nothing dropped.
Correct.
but that's also why we need to, if we're gonna add something, we need to really make sure that
Mhm.
it can't be like the cross-country co-op we did where the kid really wanted it and then after 2 sessions going to cross-country practice decided that he didn't wanna do cross-country.
Well, it's just one of those things, a discussion. You have a senior in high school that wants to play hockey and it costs X amount of dollars, you don't want to necessarily sign a 3-year agreement.
In
For a
that
child.
case, could it be a agreement
So it's case by case.
like
scenario.
soccer was, where they're paying their
That's, I mean, I think that's what we did
participation
last
fee
time.
With hockey.
With hockey, that's
You
what we
have
did
that
last
one-
time. That one child, they paid. So,
So the motion will be made to go ahead with the co-op and then try to retro it and then investigate the
soccer.
participants of soccer and make sure it's right with them.
correct.
Correct.
Okay, that's my
That
motion.
was your motion.
One last comment before we vote. I think this is something we should publicize a bit. I mean, it's very nice for those soccer families, and it's some nice new things that we're offering here, because their prices are dropping for those kids to participate. We might get a lot more kids that want to participate.
Yeah,
So it's a very good thing. I think we
Yep.
should make sure people are aware that we did it.
Offer all these sports.
Mhm.
Make sure you
Yeah,
get
that's
the
a good
paper.
point.
For instance, when I had a foreign exchange student from Germany, she wanted to play soccer because that's what she played in Germany, and she couldn't afford the fee.
Oh,
And I couldn't, I mean, it was like $400 plus we had
Mhm.
to drive her there. So if we would have had this and she could have ridden a bus, she would have done it.
Mhm.
But, so it's a nice service we offer.
Yep. So make sure it's in our package of offerings. Okay. So we have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. New business, items for discussion and approval, the environmental contract.
Okay, Steve Musser has been our health and safety coordinator or contact, for years. We did a 3-year contract with him, last year. He has expanded, to 33 districts. And he expanded when his son was going into the family business with him, except the son decided to enlist and is no longer part of the family business. And so he was trying to find someone else to cover the other projects, and it just did not pan out. And he is by the Kenyon area, if I remember correctly. He's north of Rochester, northwest of Rochester, and so there are some, he has Spring Grove and he has us. he's contacted Pat Weir, and that name probably sounds familiar, because Pat was in charge of the IEA asbestos abatement that we did here during our long-term facility maintenance project. But Pat said that he would honor the contract from Musser at the same value and the same stipulations. So for me to sign that agreement, when I get it from Pat, I need board approval to basically cancel the contract with Musser and to enter into a contract with IEA at the same stipulations that the Musser contract had.
Is this a year-by-year thing, or is this
The IEA contract are buying out the existing contract, so it will just be, and then at the end of, in a year and a half, when we start looking at contracts again for our environmental consultants, we'll see if Steve Musser has the bandwidth to take us on again. IEA is, I can't imagine that at the end of this contract, they will ever give us a contract for the same rates, because Steve Musser was usually about half the cost of IEA. So
How much we can do about it? So we have to approve this tonight, changing the contract to IEA from Musser. So we have a motion by McLean, second. Any further discussion on it?
so in a year and a half, is this something you put bids out on? How do
Yep.
we do that?
Yep.
Okay.
We, typically, what we have done, we have gotten, quotes from different environmental agencies. Right now, the only ones in the area are IEA and Steve Musser. And Musser's rates didn't even go up the last time, so we knew that he was much cheaper than IEA. IEA is good, but they're expensive.
Any other discussion, further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Policies for first reading. Policy 302 and 305. Michaeline, do you have any?
I don't think there are any changes on either one of these.
No,
Should approve them the next time, correct? Okay. At this time, we were going to adjourn, but we're going to keep going. It's a little early yet.
yep,
We get 7 o'clock is when we wanted to start the world's best workforce part of this. So we can continue on. So announcements, important events coming up. Veterans Day, Crane, you want to go through them?
the elementary school, once again, is planning their extravaganza on, Friday, November 10th at 9:30. All servicemen in uniform are invited to come to lunch here at the high school at 11:20. Following that program, it's very well attended. The students at Houston Elementary really put a lot of time and thought into this, and it's something that is really embraced by the school and the 6th grade teachers. Brenda O'Hare really does a lot of the organization on it and works closely with Dick Snow and with John Geiwitz. So if you can come, please do come. It is being advertised in I'm sure it's in the banner, but I know it's in Fillmore County Journal as well, because they have asked for that information.
Okay, and we have truth and taxation hearing scheduled for the 7 p.m. on December 7th.
Correct. Which means at the November, our next meeting is November 16th. At the November 16th meeting, we've got the audit report slated to go. So we're hoping that that will get done so we can get the audit report prior to the truth and taxation hearing.
Does it look like we're gonna have it? Will we have it all together, hopefully?
It depends on the auditors, but yeah, we're hopeful.
When do we have a finance committee meeting?
We'll have the finance committee meeting, then that's the December 7th beforehand, or we could schedule it. Did we have that one scheduled prior or not?
We had talked about it.
And facilities is now at 5 o'clock before
On
the
the
November,
16th, right, so I
on the
think the
16th.
projected date for, the next,
Finance,
finance would be 5 o'clock, probably right before
the 7th.
that. Unless somebody thought it would be better to do it before then, I think is what Gwen said.
So was it November 31st? Or November 30th? November 31st doesn't exist. November 30th?
I think we might have talked about.
November
possibly
30th?
then.
Would November 30th work?
Well, when do we vote? We have the truth and taxation, and then when do we vote on it? The next meeting?
We would vote on it on December 21st.
I think, just in case, well, I think it's better to have it prior to that meeting on the 7th, if there's more information the finance committee needs or whatever, because we're gonna talk about it in the board meeting.
I had
On the
something
7th.
scheduled for the 30th, but maybe just because I have my going in 2 weeks.
Okay.
So maybe if the 30th work for you, Mimi, I think you and I are the only two left on that board, correct?
Correct.
We need a new board member to be on there. Yeah, it's the first home basketball game, but, for boys, but yeah, we could do the 30th.
What time does that start?
Varsity would probably be out at 7 or
Yeah.
something.
So if we could do a 5 o'clock,
5
Yeah.
o'clock?
okay. 5 o'clock, November 30th?
Okay.
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 Is there somebody who wants to be on that committee? I know Jean hasn't joined the board yet.
So we can't be on the committee yet until.
Well, I mean, I don't even know if he's interested to be on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I guess
Think
maybe
about it,
somebody
James,
can,
let us know in a couple
I suppose we can wait till January, but
Yeah.
it'd be nice to have more than just 2 people. Because if Tom doesn't show or I don't show, it's kind of,
Well, and negotiations
party.
is down one too. And it would be nice to have
That's
some,
an open meeting, I mean, if Gene was interested, he could still come to the meeting.
you bet.
Try out the
Mhm.
committees, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
we said what time? 5?
5.
5 o'clock on the 30th of November.
Got it.
Somebody's writing that down, James.
No, finance
Committees
is
are
the
up in
one
January,
that's-
right? We
Yeah.
redo
Facilities will
We'll
be
redo
the next one where we're
At
talking.
the
Everything gets
organizational
changed.
meeting.
Right.
Oh, and that's something, the organizational meeting right now tentatively is scheduled for the first Thursday. Is that still? Okay. And then all other board meetings will be scheduled at that time.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, the conference, the next thing on the announcements is the 2018 MSBA Leadership Conference, January 10th,
10th is the,
Phase 2 workshop, early bird.
right, early
And
bird
it's the
sessions.
11th and 12th is the conference itself.
Right,
Are these all up in that convention center then?
Yep,
yes.
all in one location.
I do believe there's a phase 1 training on the 9th, which I forgot we might have somebody that would be applicable to.
Right.
Yeah.
When will they be offering phase 2 in Rochester again?
I can go on MSBA and find out.
We can do that again.
I
So-
plan to go on the 11th and 12th.
Okay,
Are you gonna stay someplace? Or do you want me to?
I prefer to stay downtown. I never actually stayed out at that place, but it's just nice being able to walk to the convention. I
You're
guess
going
I'll
to-
stay where others stay, but I think it's nice to be able to walk.
You're going to?
Yeah, I usually go.
you can go with your work?
Huh?
I'm got,
At
you know,
this
it should
point.
be, should be small.
What day is the week of it?
I could
It's
be
a
fired
Thursday
by
and
then,
Friday.
Craig, you don't know.
Better than Monday and Tuesday.
Yeah, it's a Thursday and Friday, I think.
Yep,
isn't it?
Thursday, Friday.
Yeah, so I'll have to take time off because I'm in winter session then, but I'm planning on going unless it's not approved for me to go.
Now, when is our, so we'd have a meeting January 4th?
Yes. Ron, is that something that you would want to go to?
Yeah.
Okay.
Then we can talk
Josh, you wanna
more.
try it? No?
Yeah, I should try.
It's a lot of fun and it's really educational. It's really fun, I think. Getting to see the kids and the presenters are always really good. It's fun.
I think the kids, when they present, that's the funnest, best.
Well, and it's, the more people that we can get from the board to go, it also, as you're listening to different speeches, as you're listening to different keynotes, then talking about, okay, how can we implement some of this, or how can we use some of that, or how can we, as you're going through some of the breakout sessions, how can some of what they're doing work for us? Because every school is different, so we can't.
You gonna try me? Okay.
Yeah.
Then I
Well, the
for
other
sure
thing
have to
that's-
be there.
Yeah, the other thing that's nice about it is we pay over $6,000 as a membership to MSBA, and this convention comes as part of that, so, I mean, there's housing, but we don't pay a registration fee, so it is nice to be able to take advantage of.
Let's take advantage if we can.
Preference on the Yahoo or?
You know, it's staff development would pay for the hotel rooms and food. We just have to stay within the food budgets.
Which we haven't had a problem.
Well, breakfast in Minneapolis is
You
more
can
than,
maybe
Ours
get
is
a
what,
bowl of oatmeal
$2.50?
if you're lucky.
I tried, my bowl of yogurt with fruit was over the limit.
Tom, are you gonna try to get the base?
Yeah, I mean, Ron and I ate, like, we had what, omelets, hash browns, bread, coffee, I think it was $2.50.
What?
Oh, at the base?
Yeah, it was good, right, Ron?
Yeah.
Excellent.
See, and I've never done the base, and I'm not thinking that's something that,
Why?
I've
so-
done the base.
What's wrong?
You can-
It's a
you
nice
can do the
place.
base, but it is.
It's not, you know, it's a,
It's
you,
getting
all you're
down
doing
to-
is sleeping.
You know, getting downtown is the
Well, speak
only
for yourself.
hassle.
Okay, fine.
I think I'd rather stay downtown. Yes. I'm kind of a wimp.
Whatever.
We'll discuss it.
We'll
When do you
discuss.
have to have the reservations in?
They would like them in by December 9th.
Oh, well, we got
So yeah,
time.
I'll send out reminders.
We'll negotiate.
Okay, I have another thought too, so. Okay, what else we have going on? Legislation
The
forum.
legislative forum, that's
February 10th.
Saturday breakfast. And I will be driving up, and if we have a lot that would like to go, I can get the school van and,
This,
In
oh,
February.
Is it in Rochester?
yes. It's at the Southeast Service Co-op. Legislatively, it looks ugly because this is typically a bonding session. And, so there's not gonna be a lot of new money anyway, and as they're looking at their budgets, are not coming in as robust as they thought they were going to. So even some of the things where we thought we were going to get bonding might not get the bonding that we thought, so. It's because we already asked about, whether there's going to be a fix to TRA. And it sounds like they're gonna wanna kick that can down the road one more year. And every year that they kick the can is another year where it just, the price tag.
Yeah.
One positive thing is that there finally was some movement. There was some consideration to both employer and employee increasing their giving. Because up until this point, it's only, the whole fix has been, talked about, the brunt of it, the entire brunt is with the employer. So that they know they need at least 1% more, and so the whole thing was going to be paid by the employer and nothing by the employee. And so now they're finally realizing that they can't force us to pay 1% more without giving us anything financially to cover that cost.
So that's gonna be discussed and kicked down the road, or maybe, so,
Well,
That'll
they-
be coming
they-
up in that
they-
so
discussion.
February.
February
Yeah.
10th. If you wanna
Yep.
be there, we got time.
Yep.
You're gonna have to register for a while. So meeting and committee updates, we haven't,
We are going to have a negotiations meeting at 8 o'clock on November 9th. And so far, all we've talked about are some
so do we wanna have a
language
meeting?
things.
After that, we should discuss what's been talked about after the next meeting. So maybe we go into closed session after the next board meeting.
The next board meeting on the 16th, we are going to be in closed session to talk about my evaluation. So
And
in
then
that
maybe
same
anytime we
closed
can-
session, we can talk about negotiations at that point
Right.
too.
I just wanna make sure we have it set up.
And we still have 14 minutes to,
So, is there anything else we wanna bring up?
Let's talk about how good the play was.
We
Oh,
can,
wasn't
we
it?
can adjourn and then,
yeah.
Well, I had some, did we
Oh.
skip C?
no, we're
No.
going, that was the next one, I was just
Oh,
saying.
okay. Future agenda items, did you say in the board update that you had scheduled update, like, we would get an update from the high school or MNBA?
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
and
yep.
when is the first one of those occurring, or soon,
yeah,
or?
yes.
And then the other one was the strategic planning committee and the discussion from that group, when are we gonna talk about that? I don't know if that was in the same board update or not, I don't remember reading about it.
And that's in that whole schedule, and I just had to hear back from people as far as, and then, so district, advisory committee, district tech advisory, all of those will be scheduled, so we've got the entire year at a glance.
But I think we talked about creating a strategic planning committee on the board,
No, we talked
Okay.
about it, but we had.
so are we gonna
already
discuss that and?
Would you like
Officially?
thought- We
that,
can put it on the board to
would
discuss
you like that
it.
on the next board agenda?
I think so, I mean, it was,
Okay.
or
Why don't we
what,
do it
there were,
next
there were
beginning
other
of
follow-up
December?
items as well, I don't remember them all off the top of my head, but there were 3 or 4, and we need to follow up on the follow-ups.
Okay,
Well,
I
we
guess,
put it on the December.
okay, with the strategic plan, the goals that those
December.
subcommittees came up
Nope,
with, is there?
we had the session, the board, whatever, what did we call it? It was our board evaluation with MSBA.
Yes,
There were some takeaway items from that,
okay,
She had,
and they were distributed to us, I think, in an email. And one was a strategic planning committee. One was an issue with teacher input, I remember. I don't remember what the other 2 were. I wanna say there were like 3 or 4 that bubbled to the top as takeaways.
when Watson was here.
And I
Right.
don't wanna lose them. Cause I
Okay.
thought creating a strategic planning committee was a great idea, because we haven't been. It really came up over and over and over again in that workshop, so.
You probably still have the notes from that meeting, I'm assuming, right? Ann?
Yeah, and
So-
somebody sent out the
Yeah.
follow-up afterwards, I think, listing
Yeah.
them, but I just can't tell you what they are off the top of my head, cause I
so
haven't
you're
looked at it.
considering that the strategic plan? or
Nope,
what?
I'm just
No,
saying
just
that's the
discussion.
follow-up, just follow-up items that, I don't wanna get them lost. They're
Okay, cause when you said the strategic plan, I thought you meant the
strategic
goals that,
planning committee,
No, no, this
Okay.
is.
like a
after
board
we had that.
appointed committee. Cause we talked about that as a possible solution to keep the ball rolling with the strategic plan. So, if we're gonna do it, we need to do it.
okay,
And if we choose not to, then that's fine too, but we should at least have the discussion and act on it one way or the other.
So we can put it on that,
December 7th.
yeah, we'll reword it a little bit.
December 7th or November,
No, cause November, we got a lot going on, we got
Okay.
we got negotiations, and we can look at the agenda if we feel like we have room. But I think we have a couple other things
And
that take some
I
time.
guess with,
I kind of have an idea what Mimi's talking about, so I can get with you and you next week or something, we'll sit down and kind of.
it seems like we've got two different strategic plans going, and that's why.
It's not a strategic plan.
I'm just
It's-
saying-
It's a committee to keep working with the implementation of the plan that has been created. And it's like, where are we on the
Yeah.
implementation and where are we on the metrics and things like that, right?
Yeah, well, we spent, I don't remember exactly, but it was at least an hour meeting with MSBA and came up with some good takeaways, and we haven't done anything with them. So I hate to spend the time, like I was hesitant in the beginning of what the value was gonna be, and pleasantly surprised. I thought it was a very productive meeting. But if we don't actually take anything away from it and follow up, it wasn't productive.
Okay,
I mean, yes, we were all in agreement in the room, but there were takeaways, and we need to actually do something with those. They shouldn't just disappear. So, and I think some of them were easy,
Oh, yeah.
you know, and some of them are probably hard. I don't remember what they were.
We'll sit down till you look at them again, and then it'll probably refresh my memory. Then we can look. For me, anyway. And then the other thing we talked about for your, I know we're doing your evaluation next time, Fran.
yes,
But one of the discussions we had prior to that was keeping us up to date on where you're at for this year type of thing. So that will be starting to come up in the board meeting. You know, how we talked about reviews on a quarterly, I think what was that? I gave you the paper, kind of what it was. It was like every 3 times a year or something to kind of, so we know where you're at. So it's not like at the end of the year, we gotta all of a sudden go, oh yeah, that's right. Just kind of a quarter.
Did all the evals get turned in then, or we?
No.
Oh, we still missing
We're
two?
missing one eval yet.
one.
One.
It's me, I'm sorry. I can't get on my, I got a new computer and I can't get logged into the school account.
Oh.
So I've been trying to get by with my phone because my other computer is, and I'm having computer
Can you
issues.
access the HPS email?
On here.
Okay.
That's why I'm using this.
If I
And I just
apologize.
dug out the Surface and I tried to plug it in and I'm not so sure. I haven't used it in like a year or two.
Okay. If
And
I have help desk contact you via email, they can work with you on it. I think they just helped
Yeah,
Josh.
I had some issues a few months ago, and I'm good now.
well, I think if I I've got to just figure out a way to do it.
Yeah, cause that's gotta be done before the next meeting, so.
If you would, or I can print you a paper copy too.
She did that for me too. There we go. It works great.
Thanks for
Roll them
having
out.
us share.
A lot of pens.
I'll make a note
So
to
anyway.
contact help desk for you.
Anything else to discuss? Okay. Do you have a motion to adjourn?
So,
Second.
Sorry, discussion. Now we know we're gonna go out and then we're gonna come back in for the World's Best Workforce part of it.
Did we get an
Okay.
approval
So-
on that?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Hey, the play was fantastic.
Yes,
Yeah.
It was, those kids, to see
Perfect
all
casting.
of those kids, so many kids
Did they record that?
involved in that.
oh yeah, there was a video on the back of a guy with a video camera on Friday, or not?
Yeah, it was, yes, it was on Friday, it was being, it wasn't pushed, play wasn't pushed?
Oh, no.
Or record wasn't pushed?
I'm no involvement.
Okay.
Oh,
It was set up on a tripod, I saw somebody looking at it.
wow.
Okay.
3 sellout shows.
Yeah.
Band choir did a good job Monday night too.
Oh, yes,
Oh, yeah.
And,
Yeah, I wasn't able to be there.
Then the auction went well. I seen you going to town on the Rice Krispie bars.
and I did get a community member called last night to say that he was impressed by the number of kids out in band and choir.
They-
Only one thing, Tom. They sold raffle tickets there to somebody under 18.
Oh, no, I saw that. That was the lottery tickets.
But-
Yeah, the scratch offs.
Oh,
So I had to talk to Mr. Beckman about that.
Who, There was someone under 18
Some high school
bidding.
kid. Oh, yeah. there
Oh,
was
yeah.
a couple.
Yeah,
Whatever.
it was all in good fun when it's over.
I thought afterwards you can't turn it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, and the
Yeah.
camera's still on and we're still streaming.
Okay, that's good.
But no, I heard the same thing on the musical. That was phenomenal.
What, was that the first time they've had like a live orchestra or a?
That was really nice to have.
Yes, it was the first time they
It
had
was
that.
really,
Yeah.
well, it's not the
Well,
first time
not the-
ever.
not
They
the
used to
full-
have them.
they used to
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
them.
Oh, yeah,
Oh,
the
Been a
last
while.
few years.
That was impressive. When I noticed that, I thought that's really,
That was really cool.
that
The
takes
Cat
a
in the
lot.
Hat, I think they had a live.
Maybe, can't remember.
It was good, and hopefully they can do it again next year.
No, we don't do musicals every year, do we?
Oh,
They have been.
Yeah.
they did
Yeah,
one
they
last
have
Do
year.
been.
one, what, single act and what is,
They've been
One
doing
act.
musical every
One
year
act.
now. One act.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
musical.
the musical in the fall, one act in January.
Because I know they
February.
talked about it at the event on Monday.
Mhm,
They were hoping to have another one next year, musical, if it all works out.
mhm. And I
And
did,
from what I got from this one, feedback, everybody was,
One of our.
Where did the costumes, maybe, where did you guys get
West,
that?
West
Six
Salem.
of them graduated.
West
oh,
Salem?
really?
Salem.
Oh, I didn't
Greta
know
had
that.
Greta had a contact in West Salem and got rented a lot of them from West Salem.
Use the restaurant.
And her Apple Annie friends came Friday night. And so she's got contacts through Apple Annie's as well.
But I mean, that looked like a whole set of costumes that was
For Beauty and the
dedicated
Beast.
for Beauty and the Beast.
It was, because
Oh.
West Salem had done Beauty and the Beast.
Where did they buy them, make them?
I
That
don't,
was crazy.
well, they were West Salem, so my guess is
They got them somehow.
yeah, because the Mrs. Potts was just,
Yeah.
it was, and the Beast had a brocade vest that went underneath that he didn't wear Friday
Oh.
night, but it was
He
gorgeous.
couldn't sing in it.
Oh, is that what?
Oh,
He couldn't, it was so tight when he
Oh.
tried to breathe.
Oh,
oh.
it was gorgeous though.
It
'cause
was,
He
but,
was
you know,
wearing
what are you
it, and
gonna
this is
do?
like, oh, it's,
He's like, I can't
Yeah.
breathe.
yeah.
And he's already covered. I don't think it was the most comfortable thing in the world.
Because I asked, I said, how in the world did Lily handle having her arm?
I know,
out?
I was wondering that
And
too. She
then
had
Bob
her.
said, she ended up in the chiropractor.
Yeah.
Because I said, that, as I was watching the play, I
Her
thought,
arm
okay,
is out all the time.
with Ethan, his arms would start to hurt, and I said, poor Lily, this had to get really uncomfortable by the end of the second act. And
Yeah, it was her leg, I think, that kind of, yeah, she had bruises. Yeah.
Oh,
I don't think anybody. Do we have an abbreviated version of this, or are we gonna do the full?
well, if nobody's here, do we need to do the whole thing?
Not long.
Well, for people watching, we, at least an
And I'm
abbreviated.
gonna
Yeah.
take my dad from robotics, so. I was just curious.
It will be put online, and there's the link that
Oh,
commented.
like end of the year.
yeah, it says 7.
Sounds good.
was there ever a district advisory meeting?
We got one
that I
meeting.
missed
Yeah, I don't
because-
think it is coming.
No.
That's good for
No,
Jean
because
here.
when I was talking to teachers
That was good
about
for all
when they
of us to hear.
could meet, and they said, well, it's just the results, isn't it? Is there anything we have to discuss? And I said, no, we just have to get the goals from, and so I put in the goals from each of the individual schools, met with their staff development
You mind
committees to
going
get their
down here
goals,
before
so
you
those
leave?
were added, but there really wasn't anything for the district, other than to read the report, there really wasn't anything for the district advisory committee to do. So
Well, that is something, but it's fine. I know the timeline was limited.
Well, I
but-
would, but I just remember this.
It's just,
Otherwise,
I don't
would
want
say
to
yes.
force people to
I
meet
think I'd
just
rather do that than.
for the sake of meeting.
Okay, so we're going to the truth and, what am I saying?
Truth and consequences.
The world's best workforce public hearing.
Okay. World's Best Workforce Annual Report needs to be filed by December 15th each year. We need to have a public hearing about the work that we've done on the goals for 2016-17 and also to look at the plan for 17-18. 16-17 was the first year of the 5-year goals. And so some of the goals have been adjusted so that, as example, with the third grade reading proficiency, to get to the 2020-2021 level, the increment that's necessary, it has been put in here for that goal. And then next year we will have that same type of incremental growth. It's good to see that our third graders in 2017 did meet the increment necessary. They needed to achieve 9.3% improvement to hit the 100% by 2021, and they got 9.3%. So that's in there. That's, if you're looking at closing achievement gaps, you'll remember that Houston High School had the achievement gap in reading that was closed, but here the reading, or the gaps, are listed for each of the disaggregate groups. You'll notice that Asian and Pacific Islander is an NA. That is a comparison to last year that's an NA, because the state has now separated out Asian from Pacific Islander, and so in our next year's report, those will be two separate disaggregate groups. The State Department has also added multiple or more than one race, and so that will also be something that will be added next year, but they didn't have that for 2016, so that in 17-18 those will be added. You'll notice in math, math as a district, we went down slightly overall, and where we had the biggest decline was actually from a large group, was actually in our female group. So our girls in math stumbled a bit, and not as badly district-wide in reading. In fact, in our reading scores went up as a district. And so what we were doing in reading last year, and I think really moving to more of the multiple tiered systems of supports, and figuring out how FastBridge really can help us. FastBridge is something we put in last year, and we didn't have it at the beginning of the year. We don't have the baseline from FastBridge that we could put in this report this year. However, we will have that in the 17-18 report. And we switched to FastBridge last year. We had been using NWEA on site, and we had been using Scantron and USA Test Prep online. And we have found that FastBridge is a better indicator of how they're going to do on their MCA, and it's aligned better, so we could really see where they were stumbling and provide the interventions. With Career and College Ready by graduation, the State Department has said that math proficiency in grade 8 is a good estimation of a predictor of career and college readiness. Therefore, I've got the 8th grade math percent proficient there. You'll notice that even though the district and MNVA are still low as compared to the state, they made significant gains. MNVA gained over 7%. So that shows that they are definitely starting to go in the right direction in math. And then we've got math goals for the district, for the Houston High School and for MNVA. ACT scores are also a score that can indicate career and college ready. Houston and MNVA in all aspects are above the national level. Slightly below Minnesota, but you'll also have to remember that Minnesota had the highest ACT score for states that test a majority of their students.
Has Houston ever had ACT prep classes within the school?
Houston does have ACT prep classes on, there's the ACT prep class on it's an early out day in January, and the kids are in that class. It's an 8-hour long class taught by an ACT, College Board trained ACT prep person.
I just get the impression that other schools have a class that, you know, they kind of work with the kids. It's more than just,
Throughout the year.
yes, more than just 8 hours. I don't want to say
Did
I
you
understand
used to
8 hours is a lot, but
ACT prep?
it's all in one day. So, you know, an interactive class over the quarter,
Overtime.
over the semester, where the kids could,
Could that be offered as an elective?
I just don't know what
Well,
other
it wouldn't be an
schools
elective,
have.
Would it be?
Would be-
I'm
well,
under the
community
impression
ed or
that-
something.
Some
No, you
schools
couldn't.
use the,
Because they do have time.
I think it's called the John Baylor, not our John Baylor, different John Baylor, test prep. And so there are some different things that districts are doing. I know that we used to have Saturday classes starting in January, and then we would have Saturday classes January, and there would be 5 different Saturdays.
That's
Where-
more of a community ed thing.
That was through community education, and it was just the juniors that wanted to take the test. And I do know that the science teachers have put questions in their testing and in test prep strategies during their class that are ACT type test questions, because that also gets them ready for the MCA test. And English and math teachers have as well, but it's not, this is ACT prep.
It would be interesting to ask the kids, maybe the seniors this year, did they, you know, were they happy? Would they have liked to have more support from the school helping them prepare for the ACT? Maybe that's the right question. You know,
I mean,
did
when
they
they
feel
had it-
like they got the score they wanted, or, you know, and that they didn't need any help, or did their score was lower than they had hoped and they would have signed up for a class if it existed? You know, just to get some of their feedback, because I would hate for kids to, you know, really wanna improve their score and just like to be able to help them with that.
Well, and we could find out how many signed up for because that's, I know La Crescent does the day-long ACT prep, and that's,
It was a full class. Shelby participated in that one.
but
This
ACT,
last, it would have
yeah.
been her junior year, so the year
Right.
before. And a lot of the kids are tempted to take it again to try and improve their score. They feel like taking it the first time was just kind of
Practice, yes.
I know Shelby takes it very seriously. She's,
Yeah, and I just wanna make sure, you know, if you use her, for instance, you know, as a school
I
providing the resources, like what could the school provide that would be helpful for her, and then is that something we feel like we could provide?
why does that end up coming community ed then? It can't be tied in with the school. It's-
Well, when you said
It's not a
offered as
class.
an elect, it's not really
No,
a
it's
class
not
for
a class.
credit
It's not-
for at the state.
Oh, I
You
see
wouldn't
what you're
recognize
saying,
it
but couldn't
as
you,
a-
I mean, a lot of the juniors and
You'd have to
seniors
do
would
it
have a
as
free
like
hour.
a free hour thing that
Well,
it would be an
and they-
elective if they wanted to go to it and do it on the
Crystal
side.
Sabota does have,
Right.
the test prep information from ACT and different web-based, and there's a CD, and kids on their free hours can
You
sign
could
those
probably
out.
sign up
Yep.
here,
No, that's a
sit in
thought.
here and do it.
Yep.
For
But
instance,
they should let them know, cause I'd be curious on the one that, I don't mean to jump in there maybe.
Nope.
But when you said we had it available in the past, do we know if, when it was available on like a 3-week or whatever they did as a community ed, did it improve their scores at that time? Because
Yes, it
sometimes I
did.
feel like we're offering these things and there's one or two kids that go, which is fine. But is there another way of offering it and getting more kids involved? Like you were saying, having Mrs. Sapota have it here online when they can come in and do it at their leisure, more of when they're, more times, take the test or whatever they do, practice it and to improve on it in that way.
I have read some schools, it's required, you take it freshman year, sophomore year, junior year, senior year. There's a strong focus on that. I don't know how many schools that is. And the other thought too is, the PSAT, I know the kids have to pay for that. Have we ever offered that for free? I think we should be encouraging some of this stuff more too. I hate to see the kids have to pay for some of those things. So, because that's good prep for the ACT as well.
Well, it's the pre-SAT,
Right.
so it tests some different,
It's still prep.
Well, that, to me, it would be something that Ms. Sabota, since that's kind of her realm of things, should look into and get a, like Mimi said, maybe ask the kids, have her go and ask the kids, is it helpful if we were to offer this to you, would you do it? Is there something that she could sit down and kind of get a feel and maybe let us know as a board, come in and say, hey, I talked to the juniors and seniors or whoever, and they would love to have the opportunity. This is what I can do, offer them, and try to work it that way, because it is kind of her arena, correct? To do the ACT and get it all set up for college.
she is our ACT,
So maybe you should bring it up to her and say, hey, what's out there? Like you were saying, maybe she can do some research and find out what these other schools are offering that we may not be offering, that may be out there that's free, or there may be grant money that they can get to pay for these tests or something. Let her run with it. And
I
bring
just want to
something
be
the board.
I just want to be supportive. If
No,
there's something
that's exactly, as a
we
board,
need,
we can
it's
support
an
her.
important metric. I know it's not all about the test, but that is an important one. Colleges are gonna look at it, so.
And I will say that Mrs. Sabota has been very receptive, very proactive and involved with the kids and I've heard that from other kids, not just my own. So she's doing a great job and would want these. I've always been impressed right away when I met her compared to remembering back to my years. Anyway, what? What?
I'm trying to think who was there.
Oh,
Okay,
let's not bring any names up.
okay,
She's
good.
a million times.
Anyway, so you can look into it.
And then all schools graduating, here, 2016 graduation rates, we're at, MNVA still is having some issues, but it is an increase, so it's going up. But we're going to really need to increase that. Now, what I also wanna say is that these graduation rates are still computed the old way. MDE has not taken out any of those kids who were not with MNVA for at least one full semester. And I'm not sure when those recalculations will begin, but when they recalculate our graduation rates using that criteria, by taking out those kids who were not with us for a full semester, we're going to see graduation rates for MNVA increasing. Because right now, there are a lot of kids that came to us as seniors or super seniors. And they don't stay a full semester, and they negatively impact our graduation rates because then they don't go anywhere else. And if no other school grabs their Mars number, it becomes a hot potato. The last person holding them keeps them. So
That's still
Next-
something that just irritates me to no end,
Yeah.
because I still think that it's not fair to the schools.
next year, will it change significantly? No, it will, but it will go in the right direction for us. Houston High School was at 100%, needs to maintain that, and the district is at 45. But as MNVA increases theirs, and with the reorganization of the advisor staff, and the push for really getting consistent attendance and reaching out to those kids who are not attending. Once we can get them to come to class, we can get them to pass the classes, and if they pass their classes, they graduate, because that's kind of how it works. So hopefully that will continue to increase. The next part of the agenda is just the strategic plan, and then you'll see this year I did categories or goals by categories and then by site. When I just put all the, for the individual sites, they have their goals all together in one chunk. But to make it easier for this report, I think it's necessary for you and the community to see what the goals are at each site for each of those goals within our strategic plan as far as the district goals for STEAM and for kindergarten readiness and for third grade reading, for closing achievement gaps, for career and college ready, and for graduation. So the first ones are the STEAM goals, and reading through, these are goals that came to us from each of the school's staff development committees. So these were worked on by a group of teachers and local 70 people. And then we've got kindergarten readiness goals. And notice that Houston Elementary School split theirs into two. Then third grade literacy. There's the two goals, one for MNVA, one for Houston Elementary School. And then number 4, in closing achievement gaps, MNVA, A, B, and C, all are MNVA. D is HHS, E is HES, F is Summit. And that's because we've got the largest issue with our achievement gaps, and that's really where we're addressing all the accountability and the academics. That's why it's really heavy in goals there, and the data that we have to gather to make sure that those achievement gaps are being closed. With career and college readiness.
It's interesting what MNBA says there. Wait, stop. Oh, go back up.
Career and college readiness.
It says they're going to develop a standalone ACT prep program.
They had USA test prep before for those students that, for the juniors, it was during their homeroom. And it was not, because it was during homeroom, not as many students actually accessed it as what would really show any type of impact on the test. And that is one of the things that students said that they wanted, they just didn't like the one that they had. And so now they're trying to develop one on their own that their students would like to access.
That doesn't mean that we can't use it for brick and mortar, correct? If they come up with a...
Oh yeah, we can pair and share. Yeah.
Okay.
With number 2 there for Houston High School, who does that? Is it like who's responsible from helping the kids with all of that? Is this Crystal again? Cause she's getting her name
Well,
tossed up a
it's
lot.
during their ramp up time.
Okay,
those-
so it's
these are-
teachers that are helping them.
Well, and it's, Crystal has the seniors, as does Todd, and I think Ryan Needfelt, and yes, so it's a group of 4. Crystal and Todd are part of it. And I know Todd's looking forward to the mock job interviews.
Are those with community people?
Yes.
Oh, that's neat.
I would sign up to do that. That would be fun. Scare some kids.
No, we're not here to scare kids, we're here to help them grow and thrive.
It seems good. I was just curious because that's not going to be an easy task. That's going to take some time to get that done.
And when we've been talking, the next thing that we'd really like to have is, besides the mock job interview, we'd like to make sure that before a senior graduates, they've done an internship. But then we have to really work with the community businesses to develop places where they can do the internship here in town and come up with that scheduling. So that's nothing that we can put in if we want to do it really with efficacy and integrity. It's going to take some planning, but that's where this is going.
Could you just make it a capstone that includes internship and maybe some other options other than internship? Or, you know, a lot of senior highs don't, the seniors do a capstone project, and I don't know, there are a lot of different paths that the students can choose from. One of them could be an internship, but could be other design, other things.
I have heard just mentioned in the last few weeks from Tom McPeak that when they were in Shakopee that he was helping, and I'm going to mess up the name, but it was some sort of engineering capstone, engineering senior project.
Yeah,
where they spent I don't know if it was one class their last semester, but they decided to research and build something.
Yeah, you could do business or engineering.
It's just, there's not really a way to teach some of those soft skills unless the kids are using them. And when you're talking to future employers, what they want more than anything are kids that can communicate, can come to work on time, know to put their phones away. It's just those soft skills that they're not looking at test scores, they're not looking at grades, they're looking at whether or not this person can adapt in the workplace, can they follow directions. Then going on, the graduation planning tool that MNVA is putting in, that we're trying to get it to interface with everything so that it will be very similar to our on-site has the MCIS. So parents can get in and look at their plan, and they can do interest inventory and see everything they've taken and plan out everything they want to take. That planning tool for MNVA will be very similar to that, so that they've got that same connectivity and planning. So they can really look at what they need to know and be able to do by the time they graduate. And so with this, there are all the other plans that are connected to this. Those are listed, committee membership is listed, and then if this is going to be put online, anyone who wants to comment on it, there is a link at the very bottom for there to comment. That link will be active, and that link goes right to the feedback and question form. And so people can comment on that, and I will respond to that. So this will be up for, let's see, do we need to approve this? We don't need to approve this. So it just will be up there, and if there are comments or questions or something needs to be changed, if anything is changed, I will report that back to the board at an open meeting.
I would just, I mean, as I haven't had a chance to look at this, it must have gotten uploaded just recently, so so I'm gonna take a closer look at it. You know, the one thing, this kind of builds off Mimi saying strategic planning committee to carry on, and I think either if the district advisory committee, if it's hard to get the district advisory committee together because of the number of teachers that are part of that, there is a subset of that committee that's the World's Best Workforce Committee. And I do think, I mean, unless MDE, if they're gonna stick with this, we need to do more to get community in here. Because I think the sites came up with some great goals, but we need community input. Like, it would be nice to have a capstone, it would be nice to have an interview. I mean, and maybe, and to draw them in and say, what would they want for their kids, and what, as employers, do they want, you know, our graduates coming to them? And I just think that a lot, we had some good conversation here, but I think a lot of that conversation should be happening in that committee. And then the board has certainly a right to ask all those questions, but the committee should have spent more time with that. So like you had the AccuPlacer and the ACT, we talked about that quite a bit. And so you've got AccuPlacer, do we just use that diagnostically, or do we use that for a score for admission, a score to say they are ready for college level math? Is it just ACT or is it AccuPlacer? Because it was mentioned diagnostics and then ACT or AccuPlacer.
It depends on the school that the students apply to.
I know, but so that's why the vagary in there has me concerned.
We use the AccuPlacer to figure out whether or not the students need the articulated course here. We've got courses articulated with Southeast Technical College. So if they want to go to Southeast Tech, if they've taken the articulated class, then they don't need to take any of the remedial classes.
So
if
it's that section
that's
specifically applies to
Southeast Tech.
But that's not clear to me. There may be a lot of people that say, well, I want to know what the score, the ACT, what's the score you're going to aim for to say that my student is college ready? Well, it does depend on the school, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I think the conversation that might be had is, you know, do we want more, should there be, you know, not every student's going to go to Southeast Tech, so I don't know how to rewrite that section, but that one concerned me because AccuPlacer is changing a lot. Their classic, there's a lot of schools that don't, school I teach at doesn't take ACT scores, they can take an AccuPlacer score. So that's a technical college in our region as well. So I just wish the committee was more involved in this, and I know it's tough to get community members to find time to do that, but I think that's the intent of the legislation, and I don't think we are stepping up and doing that. We've said it's hard, so we'll just do the best we can with whoever's available, and I think we need to try to do better.
I know one superintendent said he finally just went and did a report at a public meeting, as far as, I think he went to an Eagles meeting or something, Eagles or an Elks, and then he wrote down all the people that were there, and when he filed the report, he said they were part of the committee. Because he said he asked if they wanted any input.
Well, somebody needs to give MDE feedback that this is a monumental task that schools, it costs time and resources and it's hard to do. So I mean, it's a mandate that isn't funded, and yet I think it has value, but I'm just really frustrated. I'm frustrated with this. So my other question is, did MDE give you a template for submission? Because they don't want all that, right?
No, and that is, the summary form is,
I do have it posted on here.
yeah.
And so they did send out a template, and you've got the limited number of verbiage.
Yes.
That.
Do
we get feedback from them on this then?
We will get feedback from this is the report summary, and so then the report has to be online, and so then that link will be where it says annual report. Now we'll post this after this meeting, because 17, I remembered to put the year this time, because it was a ding last time that we didn't have the year. And then we've got the people in the committee. And so then there's the goals. And that's all in the report.
And then, so just a follow-up back to that World's Best Workforce Committee, since there are some good things in there, like starting a STEAM class and doing the interview, or doing the mock interviews and doing the resume, just to have a group that has an ongoing, how is that going? You know, just the ongoing discussion about how that's working at each of the sites. How are each of the sites doing? I think the World's Best Workforce should be updated on that periodically. That committee should be updated on it. Because we write this plan, we turn it in, and then next year we sort of say, well, what do we want to think about this year? Well, how did last year go? Well,
Nobody knows.
nobody knows.
That's kind of what I wrote here, is review dates on World Best Workforce. I mean, who's following up on these? You saw a lot of, you know, specific days in June that everything's gonna come to a head, something on this list. There's a lot of different dates you had here, and will be accomplished by, or will be,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
whatever.
so when are we, yeah,
So
so where's the report back?
As things go, as they're moving along, is somebody monitoring to make sure we're gonna achieve that goal? And if not, is there gonna be something to fall back on? Like, why haven't we? Or what are we doing to, you know, do whatever we need to do? You know? So I think, I mean, Michaeline's got a good point. If you get the smaller group, since you're having a hard time getting the big group together, maybe the smaller group can get together, and if that's hard yet, maybe they can get a smaller group together to do some of the monitoring and keeping it keeping us as a board up to date on what's going on.
So, and a lot of this is tied to MCA scores,
Yeah.
so those come out once a year.
Yeah. I'm just curious. I mean, some of that stuff is interesting to read and look at, like the mock stuff. And like you said, a lot of other schools, maybe they're bringing in businesses from the outside to find out what they want. I mean, we don't have a lot of businesses here, but I would think you'd go to the HR person at ACE up here and ask maybe them to come down.
Incorporate neighboring cities as well.
Mm-hmm. And just,
Well, if you're gonna do something during the school day, you don't want the kids driving too far.
no, just have them come in.
But, I mean, we've also just talked about just a connection with them, even if it be just in their career path.
Mm-hmm.
Would you propose a committee? This has come up a lot in the last year. I mean, we would almost need to really, this whole career development, or, you know,
Career and college ready.
yeah. Do we need a committee on that? I mean,
Well,
that's.
that's what this committee, that's what these
The
committees are
World Best
supposed to
Workforce
be.
supposed
This
to
was
be.
supposed to,
So who's on that now?
wherever the
There's
committee
a
is
list
there.
on there.
So, I mean, but that was the whole thing, get community members. I mean, the committee is supposed to be
It's hard to get
largely community members,
community
but
members
it's been
to-
hard.
Like, we'll need we'll need like a couple tenacious.
Well, Corinne and I went around, we met with the Lions, I went to the American Legion.
You went to the library board,
We went to the library, we went to a number of the committees, and we invited people to join us and tried to say, and they were like, interested, but, you know, busy people.
I presented something to the ministerium to see if they
Yeah.
wanted, and so then the ministers were to ask their parishioners.
So anyway, I don't know, I just, ongoing monitoring of how are these new
Right.
initiatives going. The MCA scores, yes, you have to wait and see, that's nothing, but the career and college readiness, the connection with the
See,
community, I think that's important, that we,
My Shelby had an easy alternative where she wants to be a teacher. Well, she's doing teacher's aid this year in the afternoon. Well, that's just worked out too easily. It's too bad it's not that way. It's just not that way for everyone. But she's loved it, by the way.
that's awesome.
And the kids call her Miss Shelby.
Yes.
As they should. All teachers should be called addressed that way.
Yeah, we.
Not, hey, Joe.
Anything else?
Oh, so, thank you. We're adjourned again.
Do we need to formally adjourn, or is?
Well, no, we never.
We never formally went in.
Corinne,
Yeah,
on your thing, when you give feedback on that, when you click on that feedback,
yeah,
you say you're gonna respond in 24 hours. Can you really do that?
yeah, I really